Good afternoon, everyone. How is everybody doing today?
Fine.
Good.
Boy, they're working hard on that.
Courtyard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aren't they going to town?
I know.
Amazing.
It's so fun to
Yesterday and
watch
today.
Yeah.
Yesterday was full of holes, today it's
Today
full of
they filled it
gravel.
all.
Right?
Yeah.
Two different kinds of gravel, the smaller one first and then this bigger one after.
We've been
Yeah.
really watching.
Am I right?
You are.
Yes.
And there was actually littler stuff underneath the little stuff.
So it goes
So it goes
teeny,
teeny, meeny,
miny,
mo. No, it's for the compaction. You know, you can only compact so much, and then you have to compact again, and then you compact. So thankfully, that's where we have the structural, civil, all those engineers. That's well outside my league.
So that's where the ramp is gonna go, I mean, that's
That
where the
is-
base is.
yeah.
Is that
Correct.
correct?
Correct. That is what you're seeing is the foundation of the ramp.
Sewer lines.
And they had
to
to
do all that.
they had to redo the entire drainage because it's different drainage flows now that they've taken down a large part of that upper section. And so they had to install larger lines as well as new sewers. I think if any of you were there.
Containers too, right?
And yeah, catch basins, as they call
You'll be in
them.
the picture.
You're in the picture.
Come on.
You'll be in the picture. She looks really
You sit here.
good.
I can run over that.
She looks
good.
She-
She looks in the picture.
You're on live TV.
It's on
Pat.
TV.
She's
on television.
television.
She's my co-host. She's
Yeah,
the
wasn't
co-host
call
for the
that
day.
show?
Um,
Candid Camera.
Right? So yes, the catch basins are what those the larger drainage lines goes into for the rain, things of that nature. Those are primarily, and then that drains out into the city lines, right, to get us off. So again, that's where we pay them the money to figure all that out. So 'cause you don't want to be figuring that out, otherwise we have ponds. Which would be a nice, added water feature. Not wanted, but it would be added. So, yeah, we could add some crappie and some muskie, and we could really do some things. So, yeah. Well, speaking, staying on that construction kind of vein, I think the courtyard is probably the most visible and impacted area that we've all talked about. I think the ramp is starting to come to life a little bit. I know there are questions on the ramp, the size of the ramp, and so what is the ramp? Where's the ramp going? And so again, the ramp is going. There's going to be a larger elevator, or not elevator, sorry, a larger lobby. So I think the lobby is over 10 feet across, going through kind of that set of double doors. Then when you go up the ramp, it is what I saw from the drawing, nearly 50 inches. So 50 inches across. So two of us could walk past each other. Stretchers, wheelchairs, everything can get through there. The piece that we could go, we could go larger on the ramp. Well, actually, we can't at this point because as you can see, it's constructed. Is there's a door, and the door is 3.5 feet wide, which is a more of a standard size door. And so again, we're gonna have to funnel in there. So I know that there's some concern about the passing and the comings and goings and things of that nature. And I do believe that should work itself out. We've gone with essentially it's 42 inches right now is what you walk past every day. It gets a little tighter in those, but I personally walked a stretcher through that area, and wheelchairs get through that area pretty easily. Yes, you do have to do the stop and pass kind of thing, but again, even from a long-term, viability of that ramp, I do believe it is sized appropriately and well enough that, we'll be able to get, larger wheelchairs, even bariatric wheelchairs, stretchers, housekeeping carts, maintenance carts, all of that down that ramp and to the larger lobby.
Does it have a push-the-button door?
Yes. That door will actually be held open all the time because it'll be on a fire panel. So when the alarm goes off and there's testing, that will close the door. And so it'll be on that system, but it'll always be open.
To the outside?
No, to the inside.
Oh.
There is no door to the outside. So it comes. So they. Thank you for bringing that up. So the ramp comes out and then it comes back into the building. So they have to basically make a large hole in our current building and bring it back through to basically where that elevator lobby is currently today.
Does the little staircase still exist?
The little staircase
Handmade.
does exist. So you have your options of stairs, elevators, or ramp right in that one section. So
Fabulous.
it's dealer's choice at that point. Although I do hope that some that are may find it a little quicker if they're have a walker or a package or something, that they don't have to wait for the elevator and they can go up, or more so going to the fitness center or seeing Stacy or going to the creativity center. And so that was the idea behind it. So also for the new water tower residences, obviously they may have to go down an elevator, and rather than having to go down another elevator, they have the option of using the ramp to get down to their mailboxes, the new dining room, and new bistro, and things of that nature. So that's the ramp.
The ramp isn't going outside to the new courtyard?
No,
Oh,
not at all. There's no doors. Yeah, there's 4 other exits to the courtyard.
okay.
Is there gonna be a mirror in there at that right angle?
Well, no, because the right angle, the lobby and where the pinch point really is, there is a true large walking path that we can go right and left with 2 wheelchairs, 2 stretchers. So again, you can make that corner and not really have to worry about that pinch
Somebody
point.
coming.
Yeah. And again, I think it's easier to see it than when I explain it.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's where, in working with our architects, obviously we had to get city approval on it. We had to make it by ADA specifications. So all those pieces have already been instilled and put into place.
The fact that it's a historic landmark didn't enter into it,
We had to go through the Historic Preservation Committee to get approval.
that's what I thought.
And so we did that over a year ago.
Okay,
The entire plan for the renovations had to go through the Historic Preservation Committee at the city level. I sat in a meeting along with the architects, and Ted Bowles, our project manager. So it was very interesting. I don't know if anybody's had the opportunity to work with some of the city committees and just some of the intricacies within them. But we're adding balconies, right? And technically we're in a historic lot, right? The entire building. We're adding balconies to the water tower building. That was my bigger concern, that they were gonna have issues with adding, balconies. They approved that in less than 5 seconds. They said, oh yeah, it's different use, not a problem. Okay. But that interior ramp, we can kind of see that if we go back from the alleyway and I pick my head in, we want that stone to match the existing building. And of course the architects go, okay, sure, that's no problem. And then they approved it. So they were more concerned about adding a ramp to the inside of the interior courtyard than they were about the exterior of the balconies. And so again, I found it very interesting, and don't get me wrong, I was very pleased, because balconies are gonna be a huge added benefit for those new apartments. And the balcony, for your reference, are gonna match really what we currently have on the contemporary building. But yeah, so it was just fascinating. So they had their chance, and the other thing is, 25 years ago, when they approved the water tower building, they were supposed to be wood-clad windows. Somehow they installed aluminum windows. So we are going back and we have spec to replace all the windows. So they're making us go back to the wood-clad windows. So that was the other intricacy, I think, of the Historic Preservation Committee, which again, the utmost respect for what they do and the oversight they provide for keeping our buildings true to their form and what they do, but just what I found interesting in that meeting. But yes, the entire plan has gone through Historic Preservation Committee, city approvals, and state approvals as submitted. And obviously, as we make changes, we have to update them. And again, that's
And then you have a budget.
we do have a budget. It turns out.
With all those.
Yeah, it turns out there is still a budget, and what we were pre-approved for and financed for back in May of this year. And so we have a short-term construction loan, and then we refinanced the 2015 long-term debt as well. But again, we had over 8 banks respond to us that wanted to work with us
Good.
for this. Yeah.
So you're sound.
So
You're sound.
financially, and that was, you know, based obviously you project out on what you're planning to do, as well as with the construction costs and things of that nature. And so we worked with obviously our broker of sorts and found a very strong deal, even though in March and April, if you remember, and still to this day, rates rose rapidly in that environment. And I think we're all, you know, if you bought a house in January and locked in, you're much better than you are today. And so again, we're still very, very fortunate to have a very strong rate. But yes, we do have a budget. We are still well within budget. That's a consistent ongoing meeting. I have meetings at least twice a month formally with owner, architect, and contractor OACs. And budget, we are right within where we need to be.
That's great.
And so even with some of the additions, like the courtyard, like, you know, we're looking at doing some additional work in the fitness center, some artwork that we've had from an artwork committee standpoint. There's been some ads that we've had, and again, that's where you work through the pieces and you do a certain amount of money, right? But there's a GMP, a guaranteed maximum price that, you know, we signed off on with CG Schmidt, and so yeah, there's been a lot, obviously, contracts and background and all those pieces. But what I'm excited about is just the work that's being done. I don't know if any of you saw the large semi come in today. Blocked up traffic for a little bit on Lake Drive as they were trying to back into the alley. Our cabinetry came for Bradford Terrace. So that was very exciting. We have a lot more individuals over here in Water Tower because they moved the general contractors and subs, moved their offices over into the Water Tower building because they need to finish their offices because they're officed out of Bradford Terrace, obviously. So there's some exciting times. And so Bradford Terrace definitely has had its own kind of hiccups and different anomalies, being that it's a 50-plus-year-old building. And it's a renovation as opposed to a new build. So, but again, CG Schmidt has done an excellent job. But it's exciting to know that we had, you know, if you were in the presentation last week, you know, how many sheets of drywall dropped off, the drywall work that's being done, the inspections that have been passed, the number of different moving parts that have come into play. So. Again, we're still scheduled for early kind of October to start getting that building back, and then obviously going through licensure and anticipating, you know, our assisted living residents to begin moving over in mid to late October. So,
Can you tell me again about the wood clad windows? Where do you have to have them? Only in the new building, or are you gonna replace all of ours?
just in Water Tower. Just in Water Tower.
It's because it was part of when it was here when they had the historic designation, is that why?
Right. Well, the historic so we've been designated as a historic site since I want to say the 70s or 80s when we got our not-for-profit status. And so
But Bradford Terrace and Contemporary doesn't fall into that?
it does, but that was, we aren't touching, I mean, Bradford obviously we are, but you know, it's really because of the renovations that are happening within the Water Tower building and the different uses, so.
Am I being facetious to suggest that we try for some balconies in,
On the castle?
yeah,
Yeah.
how about in the inside?
What do you
Wouldn't
mean?
have to about where they show, you get in.
Oh, that is not part of this project. I guess we can have that conversation after July of next year.
Well, that's
But
all right.
yeah, I mean, the castle is really, I mean, obviously that's the historic, right? That is the foundation for our historic, and so changes there. I don't know, because again, the historic may look at that slightly differently than the rest of the campus, because that's truly the building that is 100+ years old. But again, I can't speak for them, so, but there's no plans for that. What else?
Well, I had something interesting happen to me last week. I was at Oconomowoc Country Club, and the hostess wanted me to meet someone. And I met her, and she said, well, I'm sort of nervous. And I said, why? She said, well, I'm moving to East Castle.
Oh,
And she's moving into a new unit,
yeah.
and her name is Irene. And I gave her my name, and I said, whenever you're nervous, just call me, because there's nothing to be nervous about. That was so funny. I'm moving to East Castle.
Yeah. We
Yes.
have 30 of the 30 apartments.
Yeah.
Oh,
This is
congratulations.
amazing.
Yeah, that's a congratulations that I received about an hour ago.
Oh.
And everything else as well. Sally Biggers is the last to go, and.
No, it's
she's-
sold.
I know,
I
I'm
met
saying
her.
it's the last one to go.
I met her. She's wonderful.
Yes,
And her name is Meyer.
yes, I met her this morning as well.
Not spelled the same way though.
Myers.
Yeah, she's lovely. Judy.
And I'm happy to see that a lot of those people are now getting involved in, the outing. Last night we had a couple who came along on the, Lake Park concert outing, and I'm guessing this is,
So who will be moving in?
yes, we're moving in. They've
Yeah, the
signed-
Hobbs.
The
Yeah.
Hobbs, they were great.
Where are they moving?
Deansville.
Go into the new water
Go to
tower.
the new-
Yeah.
Yes,
So yeah, that, I mean, again, we always, and I've said this, you are the reason residents come to this community, right? For the services and for what your experiences are. And so the more we can integrate and show why you're moving to East Castle Place and show the love and the warmth that you all provide, the reason why we are where we are. So again, I appreciate everybody's hospitality. I give kudos to Sandra. She even up and provided 3 additional chairs. I don't know if all 3 were used, but the Hobbs came and said, hey, we forgot our chairs, didn't realize we needed them. And I know Sandra mentioned, I think I caught wind at breakfast, that you had a couple of chairs that if you needed them. So I went up to Sandra like, hey, can we borrow those? So kudos, thank you for allowing that. So again, just that hospitality and that welcoming that you provide. So we are encouraging that. We send newsletters out to them, and they get to experience our dining program once a month. And so once our dining room is open, you'll probably see a few more new faces. So.
And then the bells are waiting for a turret. I guess it's 8 of them, are there?
Yep, there's 8 grand turrets available in our current inventory. Those are the ones that
corners.
corners. Thank you. So.
And we have another bell, so there are gonna be 2 bells.
I think that there's a couple residents moving in that are gonna have the exact same last
Oh.
names.
I think
Elmer
maybe-
Jake Jacobson threw me for the
Yes,
first
yes,
loop because he's a
yes,
Jake
yes.
Jacobson. Obviously, we have Jake Jacobson there. So I think I'm gonna get thrown for a couple of loops.
And Jake Jacobson were especially interesting because they both have August birthdays.
Yeah.
Just going to say that, yeah.
Ah,
Yeah,
So
it's interesting.
Again, and don't say, well, we're full, friends, don't come. We do have wait lists and things of that nature, and things do change, as everybody knows. And so again, that's really our next step. And we do have residents on the wait list currently that just haven't decided yet to join our beautiful community, our wonderful community. But so please continue sending your friends, family referrals. We do have that Friends for Neighbor program where you receive a discount on your monthly fee, as well as they do. So we do enjoy that.
Do we have firm plans on what to do with the swimming pool yet?
Yes.
Would you be kind enough to reveal those to us?
Yes. And I hope I'm on the same page as you. Fitness center will be shut down when the work is being done in water tower. The fitness center also gets a complete makeover that I've been working closely with the council on, and architects are drafting as we speak. But that does mean that the pool will be shut down. We will have fitness equipment in the Creativity Center, part of the Creativity Center, so you can still utilize the treadmill, I know a new step, and I think Willie's got plans for some of the free weights and different things of that nature, as well as classes. So the fitness component will still be available to you on site without having to leave the confines of East Castle. The pool is tougher to get inside East Castle unless you have like a bathtub or something. But no. So we are going to be utilizing Shorewood pool, and so it's about a 10-minute drive, 8 minutes if you hit the lights right. And so you will have open swim 2 different times. We will actually be able to send Milicia or Willie or Mary up with residents so that they can still do the aquatics classes in the pool. That's something that we could not do at other places that we looked at. And also, we will be able to provide transportation at minimum 3 times a week, if not 5 times a week, to that pool. And then also you have availability to go whenever you want. You are not charged for that. East Castle Place is covering that cost. You'll have to do like a punch card system, probably something that we're going to work with Shorewood on here in the near future. And then as soon as we can get the fitness center back online, that is our goal. Our conservative fear is that we'll be back online in July, because I don't think that they're going to allow us to do fitness in a space that is having construction done above it. And so unfortunately that's where conservatively we're saying probably January through July the fitness center will be down. Best case scenario is we get it back before July. And again, definitely know that will be that is our goal. But again, we have to get a certificate of occupancy for what we're thinking is the building and not necessarily just for a space. So.
Is that the separate building south of?
Yes.
High school.
Does the school use it at all? You say
Yes, so there will be times, there's open swim, and don't quote me on this, 8 to 11 and 1 to 3. And the high school does use it during different periods, but that is the times that we've been spoken to that are more of adult open swim. And so, and during adult open swim, usually there's, and there may be community members that join the fitness aquatics class because that is something, but on average, they said they have 3 to 5 swimmers a day during their adult swim. So definitely have more than enough capacity for us to bring our 10 to 15 residents at maximum or whatnot. So,
Is there an issue with the pool temperature?
pool temperature, it might be slightly chillier because there is lap swimmers. And so, in talking, Barbara Hill knows probably the history of the pool. And she said it does come around 80 degrees right now. We have asked them to up that as much as they can because right now our pool's kept between 84 and 86, I want to say. So yes. 80.
Not optimum for the elderly.
So
Do we have a time that we're gonna go? I mean, if we're morning swimmers doing
Yes. Yes, I believe, we'll offer transportation between probably around 7:30 or 8. And then after that, again, it's adult open swim and you can go whenever you'd like. And if, you have a specific request that you'd like to swim at this time, we can definitely put that into the queue and see if we have a driver available to take you. But our driver most likely will not stay during the full time, so we'll have to kind of set hours of, is it 8 to 10, is it 8 to 9:30, and again, that's all going to be working alongside you, and really probably that day of, how many of you want to be picked up at this time, how many of you want to be picked up at this time, majority may roll, so.
And is there also some way we can get parking passes, because I understand that is an issue, but there are lots of swimmers who drive. So that, yes, we want you to have transportation for those that don't, but the parking lot is, I think, restricted to, I don't know, faculty and staff, what do I know? But Barbara said that it's not open parking unless we
Parking
get
passes.
the stickers.
We will make sure we make note of that and make sure that we have the appropriate parking passes available.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you. definitely was gonna be off my radar because we had a bus going, so I wasn't worried about them. You know, anybody on the bus, we're good to go. So, but you bring up a great point. All right, what other questions?
I apologize again about this, but there are problems with, whatever salon you call it. I was there this morning and there were people waiting in line and there's just too much work for that girl. She's worked to death.
Yeah, so I was made aware of that this morning,
Oh,
about the line
Oh.
and about kind of that communication and what's happening. So Stacy and I are meeting right after this to go through that and have a call with PS Salon because again, I was made aware of it this morning, and so wanting to make sure that if there's a demand there, the contract and what we've always discussed is that they would supply, you know, and so if that's an additional day, extended hours, whatever that may be. So
The main
She's so
problem,
nice and tries to accommodate but she's overworked.
yeah,
Don't
the
people have
problem as
appointments?
I can see it is
Yes.
you can make, for instance, I ran into a problem today. And so I made an appointment for October 9th, I think, or 2nd. So a lot of people, the last time she was here, made appointments ahead of time. But then there was a sign-up sheet in the lobby, which led me to believe, foolishly, that if I put my name down and my telephone number and blah, 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 she would give me a call. Well, that's not how it works. She only would give me a call if she had any extra time. And the poor thing has no extra time. It's the system is broken.
gotcha.
You either do it one way or the other.
Right.
And we were confused because the podiatrist, you just sign up and you don't make an appointment ahead of time. So it's confusing.
You do, yeah.
It's the manner in which it is done.
Understood. Well, thank you for shedding additional light on that because that helps me out quite a bit in my conversation
There's so much to be
with
thanked you
Stacy.
guys. That's okay.
Yes.
Tyler, I have a friend who's a hairdresser and she services clients at St. John's. And she's contacted East Castle to make herself available for residents here, and no one returns her phone call.
So, well, again, I hear the O's, and I appreciate that, and I'll ask for her name right after this, but PS Salon is the provider. We do not do independent contractors.
Okay.
But if you have the name and she'd be willing to have a conversation with PS Salon, we can definitely work through that, because PS Salon is licensed through the state. And
Yes.
so that's where those salons are actually licensed specifically for PS Salon, so I can't have independent contractors going in there. But yes, again, I like that there's a demand. I like to hear that the services that are being provided are welcomed and not as previously stated. So this is a problem that we need to work through, but it's not that, you know, she messed up my hair problem.
That's right.
You know, she's just overworked
Yeah.
there.
Okay.
And Tyler,
Yes.
I'm obviously not a resident. I'm a caregiver for Louise Cardinal,
Oh,
who wasn't feeling well this afternoon, otherwise she would be here.
okay.
And her only question was, when will information become available on the units as far as dimensions for the different rooms?
So we have floor plans that we should have received already with dimensions on them. So
For each room?
yeah, well, and I don't know, I have to circle back with Lindsay, because I know that they had selected their rooms, and so I don't know if it was just provided for the specific room.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll circle back
Thank
with
you.
Lindsay.
And I'll get you a business card.
That'd be great. Thank
Oh,
you so
gotcha.
much.
Sure.
And I know I provided Miss Cardinal the cabinets and the presentation from Friday that she requested on Sunday.
Okay, super, thank you.
And if she misplaced it, just let me know.
All right.
What other questions? Yes.
On the art committee, the newly constituted art committee, which Pat is here, and she can speak to this better than I. But they've gone through and they've inventoried all the artwork, and they've decided there's a batch of it that is not suitable. There's another batch that is suitable that needs repair. And then there's the question of there's separate frames that out of the unsuitable work could be used. They have a volunteer on the committee who will recut the frames. That's pretty labor intensive, and that's really a good money saver. And they have a volunteer who's willing to cut the mats, which almost every piece, I'm led to believe, almost every piece is gonna need a mat. And my wife is, she can cut the mats, but they cost roughly $10 per mat, and it's kind of expensive. And then there's an issue of the mat cutter. There's two cutters down there. One is for paper, which is fine, but it's not suitable for cutting mats. You need a larger one with a bigger blade on it. They cost as much as $600. And the question is, if we have the pool of volunteers who will work both with the wood and the mat, is there a budget, or is there a procedure, or what is the procedure that they can proceed and try to acquire, say, a mat cutter?
So I met with Pat, was it you? Pat and Shirley maybe initially about the budget, and I'd given a dollar amount that I said absolutely, and then just let me know if there's more needed. This mat cutter is brand new. This is the first time I'm hearing of this, but there is, and there is a pool of money, and basically I just need to know what the requests are, and I can work with the art committee and either acquiring that or something of that nature. But yes, we do have funds, and so I was actually waiting for the art committee to come back to me and say, this is what we approximately need, because the one request I did say was, please don't just go out and purchase and expect reimbursement, and all of a sudden I'm left with a $1,000 bill. That was what Tyler was trying to avoid. But absolutely, again, I appreciate the labor. I appreciate resident participation in this. It's wonderful. And so yeah, just feel free to bring those requests to me, and we can work together on that, so that my preference is that even East Castle Place buys it, so that the residents A, don't have to afford the money, but B, fight over whose it is at the end of it, and C, I don't want a resident feeling they have to buy $1,000 piece of equipment or $600 piece of equipment out of their own pocket for something that they're trying to do for the community. So,
Very good, thank you.
so yeah, just let me know.
That'll be good.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mats that, because they were stored in the basement,
Yeah.
are very wavy, and they need to be, we really should have a better spot to keep the paintings that aren't,
Yeah.
that we don't use right away. If we could find a storage place for those that isn't in the basement, so they wouldn't get wet.
So we're gonna replace the mats. The cutting is not to make old mats into new mats. We're gonna throw out the old mats.
Throw out the old
and
ones
new
and cut
mats.
new ones and put them around
And
the
what do they cost? They cost $10 each?
$10 each for a big bag. She says, if it's a small painting, Kathy said she could get a couple out of each.
How many paintings do you think need work?
Talking about wavy mats,
Well,
someone sold the dehumidifier in the
Oh,
treasure
no.
chest. So
What?
the treasure
What?
chest needs a
We were told we
Yeah.
could never sell that.
They
I
sold
didn't
them.
do it.
Sold it.
Oh my gosh.
All right, so
The plot thickens.
the plot thickens. I guess.
How many pictures?
Hope they
I guess
got a
don't
lot
put
of
price
money
tag on your-
for it.
I was gonna say,
They
don't put a
probably
price
got
tag on yourself.
Volunteers don't sell the chair I normally sit on.
I know.
$400 worth
The
of
shirt off your back.
Well, it was a $600 machine.
It was.
So the dehumidifier, I hear needs replacing. I will check in with Mike and see what happened there.
Well, that had a sign on it, do not sell.
Oh my, I don't know.
Maybe we'll go with it just needing repair and it's being repaired and replaced.
Well, maybe.
Not sold.
But it smells pretty musty. Oh, I bet.
All right, we can work through that. All right, what else?
We don't need anything else.
So how much-
Dehumidifier, we have it all.
Garage trailer downstairs, but unfortunately, they didn't fit close to the wall, and I can get in, but I think that people are gonna have to back out of the middle part are not gonna be able to do that very easily.
Okay.
I think it needs to be moved.
I will look at I was gonna take a peek down there. I haven't had a chance yet today to go down to the water tower garage to see how they stored items. There's a bunch of cabinets, as I mentioned to everybody. A number are being held in the water tower garage that I did approve, because there was already the 3 existing spots that weren't in use. So what you're saying, Mrs. Culp, is that you think it's gonna be
The main
difficult?
aisle. Well,
They
so I
would-
think they could move them into the parking space 3 next to
Okay.
mine and put down in there.
All right. Yeah, I was gonna walk that after this meeting at some point today, so.
How are we doing with staffing, both kitchen and CNA?
So, very excited to share, and I don't know, this is state of the castle material, that we'll probably announce, but we do have a dining room manager, that was hired.
September.
Starts in September, sounds like that's already been released.
Yeah.
So that was a large, addition, and we recruited for months for that position and just couldn't find the right candidate. So that was a big one. Yesterday, me and I had a number of offerings to different CNAs and I believe a steward as well. We're still looking for a driver. We have a part-time activities individual that's been added, that will start, and that'll be helping the assisted living, memory support, and healthcare areas. But yeah, I mean, overall staffing, I think we're in a pretty good place. I think that we're always going to be in a position to keep wanting that best talent, and I think we're attractive, and I can start to see the market coming back a little bit. At the same time, we still do have turnover that we're consistently working through because, again, we have a level of expectation here at the community. But I will say that I'm very, very pleased with the individuals that are coming through orientation, their engagement, as well as then what they're doing when they come to the different departments. We still do have some of those attendance pieces, that unfortunately we're trying to work through with staff. School coming back, we've had to transition some schedules. Not that we transition the employee out at that point, but just have to adjust their schedules, which sometimes means we're short a couple days and having to backfill. So right now, a lot of the directors are working through that to get fulfilled, especially in the area of food and beverage, with the different school schedules. But with school coming back, that also affords us sometimes a new pool of candidates from UWM, Marquette, MATC, that may have moved into the area or came back after a summer off. So yeah.
Can I ask what the rationale is with the CNAs when they go to memory care, let's say, is what I'm concerned with, and they are very good there and everybody likes them, and then the next week you find that they are not on the same schedule anymore, they've been transferred over to assisted, and a floater, who you've never seen before, is in their spot in memory. What is the rationale for that?
So I'm sure there is rationale. I'm not directly overseeing that part of the campus. My assumption is the rationale is just that day there was a need in one area or another, and that individual had experience in another part of the campus, and so that's why they were pulled into that area, and or they were designated as a trainer for a particular area, and that they had to train that day in that area. Outside of that, we try to keep staffing schedules very consistent with, so they get a routine much as the residents get a routine with them, the staff get a routine with the residents. So we do try to keep a very consistent staffing model, but that is difficult with, holes in the schedule and vacations and things of that nature. So, but I'll verify it and check, and maybe afterwards you can talk specifically about who you're speaking to, and then I can do a little bit more research. So,
'Cause I think they lost their schedule.
yeah, but that doesn't mean that they aren't getting a schedule. So,
Correction of scheduling, I believe.
no, that's not it.
We'll
So,
talk.
we'll chat after.
The plantings around the campus are beautiful, particularly the one at, where it says East Castle Place.
Yeah, the
That's
curb
extraordinarily
appeal.
lovely.
That curb appeal is just
Yeah,
beautiful
it's
when
really
you
pretty.
drive past.
So,
Well, I will pass it along to Dustin and Jesus. Dustin is our lead landscaper. He's also a painter for us. I think they've done a phenomenal job
they have,
this year. And I will give kudos to our entire maintenance team. Michael, especially on the weekends, doing the weekend watering to keep the plants beautiful. And also our garden committee for what they've done with the butterfly garden as well as the rooftop garden. You've really translated your skill set from into your courtyard that right now it's not what it was last summer, but you've used your talents upstairs in the rooftop garden and cutting garden and butterfly garden as well.
Kudos to Terry.
Yes,
Yeah.
so thank you, and I will definitely pass that along. Thank you, Anne, for those two comments. I'll go ahead and put an extraordinary impression in for both of them. But I concur. I think they've done a really nice job. Anything else?
I understand you made a new activity center in the memory care. Is that executive approval at the same time as the rest of it, or is that on board already?
So that activity space, so what we've done, and you're speaking to the third floor,
Yeah,
we've combined 2 rooms into a larger activity space so that we don't necessarily have to use the lobby as that activity room, and just opens up more opportunities. So we can utilize that space when it becomes available to us. We don't have to necessarily get approval since the occupancy is already there, if that makes sense. The reason why first and second floor need that full approval from both city and state is we've torn down a ton of walls and redone all the electrical and HVAC. What that room is kind of more classified as is kind of like a normal apartment, a normal wear and tear where we pull proper permits and things of that nature, but we can just, we don't need to get formal. I mean, it will be inspected. So we do have to pass that before we can occupy the space as we do with anything, but the use isn't like it is on the first and second floor.
is that going on board sooner than the rest?
It should, because the third floor, if you have loved ones there, you'll start seeing a notice probably about the middle part, because we have the hallways, new carpeting, for the most part, new paint, but that middle area is not, and the reason for that is obviously we need somewhere to eat and somewhere to have residents, so we're still working with contractors in that, but we anticipate that to come online probably complete probably around similar time frame as end of September for final details, but of course it's more so if a part of that kitchen is getting new cabinets as well, so.
What's happening at the other end of the hall?
New paint, new flooring, primarily new paint, new flooring, and they're able to section that off because there's also some cabinetry work that needs to be done in the back, so a little bit more extensive work, and because we don't need to use that space right away, we're able to plastic it off and make it.
And that's gonna be the TV room again, though, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Both those rooms, so we put up that temporary wall.
Yeah.
So both those spaces will be new activity spaces for the residents to utilize. Kind of one will be more of a, what we'll call more of a quiet sensory type room that residents can go to and hear the soothing music and kind of be away from other residents potentially if that's what they want. And then just kind of what we call lifestyle stations. So for instance, if in my past I've had former attorneys, and so they've always been sitting at a desk and busy with paperwork. Well, when they, unfortunately with dementia, sometimes they'll revert back to that, and that gives them comfort. So you call that a lifestyle station. So you give them a desk, you give them papers, you give them pens, and you make their environment like they're used to, and that's actually pretty calming for them, as opposed to trying to make them an environment that they're not used to, and then they fight it and things of that nature. So that's just part of the renovations that we're doing on the third floor. Again, a lot of that is part of staff training that we're continuing to do and redo. So
One more thing, I'm sorry. Will you give them enough chairs so they can both dine and have?
but we have enough up there now. No?
No, you
Still
have to
not?
have it again, it's a pain.
Okay. Well, yes, we can make sure that
Cause
happens.
you've got chairs.
I know.
I mean, we got.
And we added chairs.
Basement full of chairs.
We added chairs even about a month ago. So I will talk to the CBRF team.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, residents need a review of how to get help through the healthcare center when there's an emergency. And the residents and families have to understand that it's not continuity of care.
Right. So in an emergency, if you're independent living, it's always you press your pendant and dial 911. You should never respond or be, helped and be expecting that you can just go to the health center and receive emergent care. They are not equipped to provide that emergency care, whether that's heart, chest pain, things of that nature. Call 911. That's what is part of the independent living piece. However, that's also why you have your pendant, 24/7 support that you can press so that they can get you help. In the event that you need some minor first aid done, you get a cut, on your leg or something of that nature. Obviously, that's something that you can still press your pendant for and you can receive. You can call Teresa Jenkins. But that is not something that you should expect to be followed by a nurse in the health center to do your wound dressing changes and things of that nature. That should be done through your physician as well as a wound care specialist in that example. Similarly for, if you need your blood pressure checked, we should be doing blood pressure clinics weekly, bi-weekly at minimum, and that's something we can do. However, if you anticipate a medication change, we cannot do that. Our nurses are not physicians. That's something that's very delicate and you need to work directly with your physician on. So I don't know if that answers, there's a lot of different things that come up. If you have COVID symptoms or flu-like symptoms, you should be notifying Teresa and we can come and help you administer a COVID test, but you should still remain, pretty isolated until you get cleared of that and then work with your physician. If flu season, unfortunately, is going to be here before we know it. If you're feeling dehydrated, you can get the Gatorades and the soups and things of that nature delivered to you from our food and beverage team. Teresa, again, will coordinate and help you with that. So that's the continuity of care standpoint. But the healthcare center, again, they're there for recommendations, but at the end of the day, their licenses are for in the licensed nursing space. They can't really work outside of that. And again, they are not physicians. So again, I know even the question of, well, can you just give me a Tylenol? No, they cannot. Even though that may be a recommendation, they should not be administering any medications to you because although you think and you say to the nurse, give me a Tylenol, I always take that. They don't know your medication list. They don't know your medication history, and that's not a risk that I want for any nurse to take on. You are independent, and so if you say, I will take this Tylenol, that's totally your call. It's no different than if I wake up in the morning and I take an allergy pill. But again, I don't expect the nurses to know and look through your medication list and look at the contraindications of those medications.
Where is the health center?
The health center is on the 4th and 5th floor of Bradford Terrace.
Okay, now, I've only had one time when I didn't even think it through, but after my last booster shot, I was sick.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew I probably had a temperature and I was going to take it, but I can't read it, so it's kind of silly for me to take it. Could I go there to
Yes.
have them take my temperature?
Yes.
He will come and take your temperature.
Pardon me?
I think they'll come and take your temperature.
Yeah, we would have, in that case, we probably would have come to you to take your temperature.
Okay, that's,
Yeah, and so again,
that's
and
my
maybe
problem.
I can have and get some further clarification from Teresa and how we want to go about that. But if it's a non-urgent situation and it's not critical enough for you to press your pendant, call on the front desk and say, hey, can you call up and see if a nurse is available to come to me when they are available, as opposed to me pressing my pendant. And then, we do have our assisted living nurses that do respond during the day, and then overnight we have our night nurse, so.
Thank you.
My understanding is that you no longer need to be a nurse to dispense medication. On the third floor, there are.
Yeah, we have certifications through the state of Wisconsin that you do not need to be a nurse. You have to have specific criteria and training, and then what we call nurse delegated. So we have an RN delegation tool that every memory care and assisted living use. Memory care generally in the CBRF licensure has roughly 8 to 20 hours of nursing per week. We have 16 hours of nursing available per day. I know this because my wife oversees 8 CBRFs across Wisconsin, and they have a nurse for the 8 across Wisconsin to consult with. So our CBRF and assisted living is a little bit more, actually a lot more, from a nurse standpoint. But the CBRF aides and anybody that's passing medication is medication certified through the state of Wisconsin. It's a class that they have to take. And we have medication techs. That's another level. They have the appropriate skill set and training and education to pass medications as well.
Is that also controlled drugs?
In the CBRF and assisted living world, yes.
What is a CBR?
CBRF is certified or community-based residential facility. It's the licensure that the state of Wisconsin designates for a certain level of care that's not skilled nursing. It is state regulated, and there's different thresholds on the level of cares that can be provided and level of things that can be had in that level. We also have an RCAC license, or a registered care. RCAC will lead at that, and that requires no more than 28 hours of care per week that can be given. So there's different levels, and again we are surveyed in the different levels of care, in the skilled nursing annually, and the other levels every 3 years or sooner. So.
Tyler, are you concerned at all about monkeypox?
So that question, I think Nancy, you mentioned on Sunday about monkeypox. At this time, I do not have a very large concern. Obviously, it's out there. We have policies and protocols in place in and if we were to have somebody contract monkeypox. Again, that is something that we're aware of and we're monitoring. But from a community standpoint, that is not registered with any of the residents nor staff at this point. But rest assured, we do have policies and protocols in place in the event that we do have a resident that contracts that. So.
And do they have to go to the zoo then? I'm sorry.
No.
Sorry.
They also have some sort of a stomach issue up on the third floor at the moment.
I mean, you and I could have a sidebar just on the third floor.
I know the third floor well, yeah.
Yeah, and I assure you that we are also aware of it and acting accordingly. So.
Big job.
And I think something I heard on the news the other
Sure.
night about monkeypox, that people who, they think that maybe people go to concerts where they're rubbing elbows and they're close together, and they could possibly pick it up that way. So maybe avoid people close together.
Avoid the mosh pits.
Don't be rubbing elbows, are
It's a
they?
concern.
Unless you rub elbows and you have, covered.
Sore.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Any other questions?
I have a question that really isn't a question about the whole business here. But last weekend, I think it was on Friday, there was a lot of noise coming from the apartment next door to me, which was Mrs. Pollard's apartment. She was out, and I don't know where she was. I don't know where, she was obviously on a trip or with relatives or something. There was so much noise that I went past the apartment and realized that the door to the apartment was open. So I walked in to see what was going on, because this was lots of machine noise, you know, and I tried to find out what they were doing. They were replacing a floor, I think.
Yep.
You
She
probably
planned
know
it.
all of this, and
She
I.
planned it accordingly for when she'd be gone.
Okay, and so I was left out of that. But at any rate, I just asked them, you know, what they were doing. They couldn't say very much. They were replacing a floor. That was about all I could get. And I said, do you know how long this would take? And they really couldn't say. They said, they didn't speak much English.
Mhm.
Which is perfectly okay. But I just wish that I had been told too, and obviously everybody else was, what was gonna happen while she was gone. Because it was, there was just no rest in my apartment. I couldn't really use my
Sure.
computer and get anything done. And I understand these things have to be done, but all I needed was just a note saying, I'm gonna have some workers here and it
Did
may
you
be
hear my
messy,
campus meeting?
you know.
Yeah, so Penny, and I know you and I spoke about this, when renovations are happening, carpeting is replaced, flooring is replaced, I know that a number of you have had work done above, below your apartments, and so that is a normal business operation, and so we'll talk with, I'll talk with Eric to see if there's some type of note. Sometimes our flooring contractors will say they'll be there one day and the next day they're, you know, so they do have a little wiggle room. At the same time, depending on the flooring they're taking out versus the flooring they're putting in, sometimes they create more noise or less noise. So, you know, we can try to just give you a quick note saying renovation is going to be happening next door. If you have any questions, please reach out. And you know, you can always reach out to myself or Eric. Usually Ian is another good resource. If you do have questions about the noise or construction, that we can give you a better answer. Because yes, we do have flooring contractors in and out of the building consistently
Yeah, making
Okay.
noise.
making
I have
noise.
another question. Wi-Fi, how come it's going on and off all the time now?
All the,
That's-
yes, so
Oh,
you
boy.
received or you didn't receive.
We
Yeah.
Doctor's appointment we missed yesterday.
So the Wi-Fi was out. It was out from, and I heard it went out Sunday night. Starting around 6 or 7.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so then Joe Petoskey, our IT manager, was made aware of it at 7:15 in the morning, Monday morning when he came in. And so that's a conversation that, you know, Joe said, I just want to know as soon as possible that a Wi-Fi outage is happening. So working with, I know James was trying to troubleshoot on his own. But nonetheless, the Wi-Fi was out. And so we worked with our provider and got it back up at noon, I think, ish, on Monday. And so what caused it is there was for lack of a better term, there's a glitch in the system outside of East Castle Place. So it's much like if you had Spectrum at home and you had a Wi-Fi issue or something of that nature, similar process. You know, this is, I mean, I know that we had that Wi-Fi issue about a month ago, specifically around the Hoffmans and the Myers apartment that was resolved. But yes, there was a Wi-Fi resident outage, and we worked on it as soon as we were notified, and that's why on Touchdown you saw the notification as soon as I was made aware of it. You know, we try to minimize that to the best of our abilities, and we are working with trying to find a new Wi-Fi provider that doesn't impact you and the Wi-Fi services you provide, more so the support that we provide, because Joe sat on the hour for about 3 hours waiting for a response and working through. So we are actively working to try to problem solve that. For the most part, I'm understanding that Wi-Fi is pretty consistent, right? I mean, I know it's when it goes out, it's pain. There is no doubt about that. I know that, you know, when my cable went out, well, I had COVID, it took me 4 days to get there. But, you know, nonetheless, I'm at the mercy of AT&T. But, you know, same thing with the hot water heater that decided to go out at the same time. So, But nonetheless, I apologize for that, and we are actively working to make sure, the support, because again, technology is going to have the glitches from time to time, but more so the support on our end, how much we can control. Unfortunately, this is one area that we could not control. So, what else?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you
That was
so
a
much,
long meeting.
Carolyn.
Tomorrow, just as a reminder, there is a budget meeting at 2 p.m., budget presentation at 2 p.m., and then the State of the Castle meeting is at 1 o'clock on Thursday. The budget presentation will be in Lindsay Hall, and then also be available to you. I'm sure we will replay it, and then obviously I'll be able to answer any questions that we'll walk through. So just 2 notes there for you, and
Will that have our rent increase for the year? or-
that is the budget meeting for the monthly service fee increase. So
Is that you or is that someone
I
else?
don't even
Who
want
gives
to
that?
see it.
that is me.
I know.
That is myself.
tell me
You'll be
what it
hearing
is.
from me
That's once a year?
once a year. Yep. So and I go through kind of a high level budget review, like I did with the board of directors today, because the board of directors ultimately approves that budget. So
You're not going to give us a hint today as to what it's going to be.
well, then you wouldn't come tomorrow.
All
That's
prices have gone up, how much?
That's
I
right.
like you mean, is it a favor?
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. Take care.
I didn't even know there was.